Hi everyone, I'm coming to you from the Davenport Perth Neighborhood and Community Health Center from the Early On Child and Family Center. So my name is Melanie Desroches. I am an RECE and I'm the Early Childhood Resource Coordinator here at Davenport. And today's presentation is going to be 10 tips to support language development for your children. So I hope that you're able to learn some helpful tips today. So before I get into the 10 tips, I wanted to talk about why is language development important? And so this slide has a lot of information, but I'm going to try to keep it simple for you. So basically we want children to develop their speech and language so that they can communicate, they can talk, they can express themselves with body language, and they can understand and they can express themselves. So the reason that we want children to be communicators, our goal is so that they can express themselves in so many ways. So I'm going to quickly go through these bullet points and explain to you why they're so important. So the first one being initiate, respond to, engage in communication with others. So we want children to be able to start a conversation, respond to others, talk to others, and keep the conversation going. Learn, understand, and use language in many ways. So of course we want children to be able to read, write, speak, use their body language, use their expressions to talk to others. We also want children to use creative expression to communicate feelings, experiences, and ideas. So that could be through drawing a picture. We want them to express their feelings. We want them to be able to write down their ideas. We want them to be able to communicate with others, talk to others in creative ways. We also want them to be able to express themselves in their first language and then gain language development. So that just means whether your child's first language is English or Spanish or Mandarin, they're able to speak and talk and communicate in their first language and grow with that language. The other one is participating in meaningful interaction and communication with peers and adults of any ability. So basically what that means is, can your child interact with adults? Can they interact with kids their age, kids a little bit older, and people of any ability? So regardless of people's ability to communicate or if they have any special abilities, are your kids able to interact with them in a nice way? And the last one is developing the foundations of language that support reading and writing. So that last one is what I want to focus on today. Is why is this so important? It's so that you're setting the foundation for lifelong success for your child. Your child's going to be a healthy communicator. You're building the skills for reading, writing, and communicating with others in the future. So one last thing I want to talk about before I get into the 10 tips is that children are going to develop and gain these skills as they grow. So kids are not just magically going to be able to talk overnight. And what's going to happen is they're going to grow. So they're going to be able to describe, they're going to be able to listen, to understand, to express themselves. That's what we want them to be able to do. And so throughout this presentation and in general, I want you to know that there's 3 areas of development for language. So there's receptive language skills. So what is your child able to understand from others and from the world around them? Their expressive language skills. Are they able to take their own thoughts in their head and communicate those with others through words and sentences? Are they able to speak and talk? And then the third that sometimes I think people forget about is nonverbal language skills. So can you communicate without words? Can your child express themselves? Can they use body language? Can they use eye contact, tone of voice? These are really important skills that your child is going to be learning. So these are 3 areas of development, and I really want to stress that it's okay if your child is struggling with all of these, if they're struggling with one and not the other. Every child is unique, and I'm going to go through the 10 tips today that will hopefully help you guys. And at the end, I'm going to talk about what to do if you're struggling, you have no idea what to do, and you just need support. So this video is here to support everybody, okay? So the first tip I'm going to talk about today is repeat. So repeating things for your child is important so that they can learn new words and ideas. So for example, during play, you are playing with Lego and you have a small tree that your child is playing with. So you want to label and repeat that to them while you're playing with them. And you can do it multiple times. So you could say tree and point to it. And then after a couple minutes, maybe your child is holding the tree. So you can say, you're holding the tree. You want to give your child the opportunity to hear you though. So you don't want to bombard them. If your child is holding the tree, don't take it from them and say, look, tree, tree, look at the tree. Can you say tree? This is going to overwhelm them. They're just trying to play. So you're just trying to incorporate the language for them as much as you can throughout playtime. But another thing is you want to repeat these words not just playtime, but throughout the day. So maybe you're reading a book with them and you see the tree again, so you can point and say tree. Or if you're out for a walk with them on a nice day, you can point and say tree, right? So you want to incorporate this throughout the day and repeat those words because you're going to expand their language. Okay, so the second tip is to be an active listener. So I know for some people this is really difficult. When we want children to speak, our natural tendency is to ask them more questions and to talk to them more. This is something that even as an ECE, it was a skill that I had to learn. So sometimes when we ask too many questions or are speaking too much, the conversation becomes one-sided and your children isn't going to respond. So we want to allow the child time to think, time to process, time to think about what they want to say, or maybe they're not able to speak, so they're not responding just yet. But we still want to allow them space to think. So what we want to do is we want to give them a reason to communicate. So we can do that by commenting on what they're doing. Or if you must ask a question, I would suggest asking an open-ended question. So when we ask a close-ended question, it means it has a yes or no answer or a one-word answer. So what color is the truck? Well, the truck is red or it's blue. That's a close-ended question. We could say, what do you like about the truck? Or what is the truck doing? This allows the child to answer, provide a backstory of what's going on or how they're feeling. Or you can also comment. So for example, the truck is going very fast. And then leave it at that. Make a simple comment, allow your child to think, and they may respond to you. So being an active listener and not taking too much of the conversation is super important. So the third tip is to read and sing with your child. This one is lots of fun, even for the adult, and it's very important. So you want to read simple books, lots of pictures, so they're very engaging. And when you are borrowing books for the library, if you're not with your child, try to pick something that you think they might be interested in. Or if you are there with your child, ask them to choose the book, so they'll be even more interested in reading with you. So when you do read with them, you want to make sure you're sitting at their level, you're sitting together, and you want to read with them and have fun with it. Use expressions, make sounds, you can clap, you can stomp your feet, you can make animal sounds, or if it's a song that you know, singing is a great way to engage with your child. And so you also want to label and describe what you're seeing as you read. So you could say, I see a big yellow truck, and you can point at it. And when you do that, give your child time to respond or just process what you've said. They may point to it as well, they may comment, or they may say something to you about it. And the last suggestion I have is when you are choosing stories, if you can choose one that has rhyming words or songs, this is super fun for the kids, but it's also a really good way for them to remember the story, remember the words, and just to have fun with it. So the fourth tip is to do face-to-face. So this means that you're going to get on your child's level, you're going to try to maintain eye contact with them. You want to notice where your child is looking. Are they holding eye contact with you? Are they looking up at the ceiling? Are they looking at something on the wall? If you're not sure where they're looking or you're not sure they're holding eye contact, grab your child's favorite toy. It could be a teddy bear, whatever it is, and you can hold it near your face. And hold it here and see if your child is able to hold eye contact. So you can say, here's the bear, bear, and see if they will hold eye contact with you. Being able to have eye contact with your child encourages your child to see you, see how your mouth is moving when you speak, and also hear the different words and sounds that you're making, right? And so for children who do have a small amount of words, maybe they've just said hi, or maybe they haven't said anything at all, they could also be communicating with you through facial expressions and you just haven't been noticing. So maybe your child's giving you lots of smiles. Maybe when you're out for a walk, you don't think they're listening to you or they're not engaging with you, but they keep pointing at things and you haven't noticed. Maybe they're clapping because they're happy. So having the face-to-face time allows the child to see you, but also for you to see your child. So the fifth tip is to use simple, positive language. I can't stress this one enough. You will need to adjust to your child's level of understanding. And then what you will do is you'll introduce concepts and language just outside of their current level so that they can develop these skills. So what I mean by that is if your child can say one word, if your child can say book, you will want to introduce two words, big book or blue book. And if your child is saying two words, so blue book, you will say three words, read blue book. So you want to keep it very short. You will use these 2 or 3 words or the very, very short sentence depending on your child's understanding, and it will help them learn key words and concepts and build on what they already have. Okay? And so I've left another example here about playing with blocks. So if your child says play blocks, you could say play with the blocks. And so you're just going to take their original sentence and then build with new words so that they're not overwhelmed and they can slowly build on it. And then you'll add more as they learn more words. Tip number 6 is to comment and engage in conversation. So I did touch on this a lot before, but sometimes we're asking way too many questions. It's just you doing a Q&A with your child, but your child's not giving you any answers. So asking those yes or no questions or questions where there's just one simple answer are usually not super helpful. So instead what we want to do is we want to make comments. You can describe what's happening if you're reading a book or while your child is playing or while you're out for a walk and at their level of understanding. So for example, oh, tiger's going home, or blue car is fast. Or if your child is not at that level yet, you could say blue car, right? And again, it is okay to ask questions sometimes, but if you do, try to keep them open-ended. Talk about how or why something is happening. Why is that car so fast, for example, right? So you just want to engage in the conversation. Tip number 7 is to label. So we have mentioned this before as well. So labeling is super simple and is going to teach your child new words or enforce words that they may know but they could have forgotten. So naming will help your child understand new words, shows that you're engaging in the conversation, and it teaches your child that they can use their words. So things that you can do at home during your daily routine is you can name things that your child is interested in. If they like to read, if they like books, if they like animals or colors, focus on that. So if your child loves colors, talk about blue objects, point out red objects, put red objects together, do a sorting activity. Describe what you and your child are doing. If you're walking, if you're running, if you're eating, label that. We are eating. You can also use words to describe the location of things. So your child is learning if something is inside, outside, something is underneath. So you can ask them to get something for you. Oh, the block under the table. So this is a great way through labeling for your child to learn new concepts and new words. Tip number 8 is to expand. So like we said earlier, take your child's current level of understanding and just add a little bit, not too much so that it's not overwhelming. So for example, if you don't know what your child is trying to tell you or it's not clear, maybe you're out for a walk and your child sees a dog and they're pointing at it and they say duh, maybe they make the sound for dog, or they go woof. You could respond and say, dog. Yes, I do see the dog. Or a dog goes woof, right? So you're expanding what they're trying to say, and then they may be able to say it back to you the more that you work on this. And then again, you can also add color, shape, size, location, any other describing words to what they're saying, so it's building their understanding. So if your child says ball, you could say red ball, you could say round ball, you could say big ball, or for a more advanced version, if your child says kick my ball, you could say kick the ball outside. So just adding just a little bit so they can begin to grow those language skills. Number 9 is to follow your child's lead. So I feel like this is the most important tip that I can give you guys today, because it's the key to understanding and supporting not only your child's language development, but their development in general. Each child is lovely, they are wonderful, they're all unique. Children all have their own strengths and weaknesses, and we also all have our own style of communication. So what I'm going to encourage you today is to listen to your child, join them in play. We all know that children learn through play. This is the way that they learn new concepts. Try to incorporate their interests, whatever that is, whether it's colors or animals. Try to incorporate that as much as you can, and then try to incorporate some of the tips that I've offered you throughout this presentation just into your daily routines, and this will really help with your child's language development. So the 10th and final tip is to monitor and find support. So using speech and language or developmental checklists is a great way to indicate if your child needs some extra support, where they're doing well and where they may be struggling. So it's totally okay if your child is not meeting all of the criteria in speech and language or maybe in their physical development, but it means that you may want to speak to a trusted early childhood professional because they could give you some tips, resources, or a referral to a specialist if needed. So some children may have speech delay or struggle with a certain aspect of speech and language development, and so the earlier that we're able to identify these areas, the sooner they can receive that support. So we highly suggest checking out the checklist that I'm about to go through with you on the next slide, just to see where your child's doing. And of course, you can always contact us if you want a second opinion or you're not too sure about your child's development. So that finishes up my 10 tips for speech and language development, but I did want to give you guys some resources that you can access online at any time when you need them. So all of the links here are free and available to everybody online. So the first one is Early Abilities, the Toronto Preschool Speech and Language Program. So I did get most of my tips today from their website, but they have tons of more information and tips that you can do with your child at home. And they also have a checklist based on your child's age. So if you think that you may need a referral to this program or you're trying to figure out more information about how their program works, feel free to give myself or any of the early on staff a call and we can give you some more information. I also have the Look and See checklist, which is not just for language but for all areas of your child's development, and it's a good way just to check in and see your child's strengths. Is there anything they need extra support with? So I recommend taking a look at that one too. I also have a link here for if your child speaks more than one language. There's some specific tips to support your child when they do speak more than one. And I also have a link for more tips for building your child's speech and language skills, but with videos. So if you are looking for practical, easy ways to do things at home with your child, there's videos that show you how to do it. And the last one is red flags for language delay. So these are sort of warning signs or things to look out for where you may want to speak with an early on staff or speak with a friend to see if you can get some more resources and support for your child. So if you do see any red flags or warning signs, the next slide I'm going to hop over and give you guys my contact details as well as for the center so you can get some extra support for your child's development. So one more resource that I want to highlight for parents is what's called the Early Learning for Every Child Today document. otherwise called the ELECT document. And so basically what this does is it breaks down development by your child's age, so infants, toddlers, preschoolers, and school age, and then it looks at social, emotional, communication, cognitive, and physical. Those are the big words where they break down development into different skills. So I've screenshotted an example here for babies, and so one that they have here is if your child is babbling or vocalizing, which means making sounds, right? And so it says, is your baby able to babble using different sounds? And then it gives you an example here. You can imitate your baby's vocalizations or sounds. So if your baby is saying ba, ba, then the adult can say ba, ba, back, and that will encourage your infant to babble again. So no matter what age your child is or where they are in terms of development, this is a great tool that you can use to keep building on their skills. So I've put the link right down here at the bottom, and I really encourage you to check it out. So this is the end of our presentation. I just want to say thanks so much for listening. And as I've said throughout the presentation, please feel free to connect with us. We're here to support you. So again, my name is Melanie. My email and phone number is right here. And if there's any early on staff that you're comfortable with already, feel free to call them as well. I've also put a link to the City of Toronto's preschool speech and language program here that I've adapted this presentation from. So this link is really great if you're looking for more information again. So thanks so much for listening, and we hope that you stay safe.